All right, thank you, everybody. So how many of you love technology? Of course you do, when it works for you. And I think as photographers, we get accustomed to having some really cool tools. How many of you remember the days of manual exposure and manual focus and manual film advance and manual everything? And it felt like you were working really, really hard just to take a picture. And nowadays, granted, we still have all sorts of control that we can exercise manually over our cameras, but we also have incredible advanced technology where we can capture lots of images really quickly with autofocus and all sorts of cool stuff. Well, as a lazy person, I like having tools that make my life a whole lot easier, and now we've got tools on the software side, sort of past the camera, going beyond the camera, that make it very easy for us to work through our images. So today, I want to show you, this is essentially 5 minutes from click to share, except I'm going to take about 20 minutes to take you through those 5 minutes because I want to talk about some of the details along the way. But the idea is a workflow that's working for me where I can process my images relatively quickly, and most importantly, I can get those photos shared with others, whether that's sharing with a client so that they can send me some more money for the pictures, or if I just want to get my photos out into the world to show them something cool, show people something cool that I've found, or at least something that I think is cool. So these tools that I'm going to be using all revolve around the Adobe Creative Cloud. I'm using Lightroom. Now, I used to describe Lightroom as a software application, a tool that you use on your computer for organizing, optimizing, and sharing photos. But now Lightroom has become much, much more. And so, for example, I have Lightroom on the web. So I can use my computer to access my photos, but I can also synchronize my photos via the Creative Cloud. I'm going to go ahead and sign in to my Creative Cloud account, and you will see in just a moment, first of all, a nice, friendly, warm and fuzzy welcome from the Creative Cloud. Welcome back, Tim, to your photos. And I can go into my photos, and here I just have a collection of images that I have synchronized via the Creative Cloud. So I'm able to access my photos from anywhere that I've got an internet connection and a web browser. And as we'll see shortly, I also have the ability to work with my photos on a mobile device, such as an iPad, an iPhone, an Android device, etc. So let's take a look at what some of that workflow looks like. First off, of course, I'm capturing some photographic images, and so I'm going to go ahead and import those photos into Lightroom. And so in this case, I've got images on a card. I've just taken some photos, take that card out of my camera, put it into the card reader on the computer, and I can bring those photos into Lightroom. And what's cool about that process, at least for me, is that it's very efficient. I'm able to accomplish lots and lots of stuff all as part of a single process. I'm going to go ahead and choose the source of those photos, in this case just a card in my card reader. You can see thumbnails of all of the images, a little check mark indicating that that is a photo that will be downloaded, in this case all of them that are on the card. I can also go adjust some of my settings. So for example, I want to use a folder structure to organize my photos so that when I'm looking for something, I can first go to that folder and say, okay, I'm looking for pictures from this particular trip or whatever the case might be. So I'll go ahead and type a name for that folder. We're just going to call this Rome 2015, since these were pictures taken this year in Rome, would have never guessed. I also have a metadata preset assigned here, so my copyright information, my contact information is being added to these photos automatically. Copyright info so no one will steal my pictures, contact info so they know where to mail money, send me a check if they want to buy my photos. I'm also building standard size previews, and there's some other settings. I could rename the images, perform a variety of tasks here. I could even create a collection right now. I'm going to save that step for later so that I can show you a different approach to creating a collection as well, just an alternative. I'll go ahead and click the import button, and Lightroom will get to work. It can create a backup copy of these photos as part of this process, rename the images, add metadata, add some keywords. I can perform a lot of tasks all as part of a single, very simple process of just importing my photos into Lightroom. Once that process is complete, of course, then I can start to review my photos. And when it comes to looking for a particular photo, essentially what we're doing is narrowing down the total number of photos, hopefully to a very small number, ideally one, the one image that I was actually looking for. So for example, my master Lightroom catalog, the catalog that I use to actually organize my photos, contains a little over 300,000 photos. When I go into a folder for a particular trip, maybe I go to my Alaska folder for some photos that I captured on a trip to Alaska, that takes me down to about 10,000 images because it was only an 8-day trip. I didn't have much time to take pictures, right? But then if I go to my favorite photos from that trip, now I'm down to maybe just a few hundred images, and then I could filter further by keywords, etc. So let's take a look at just one example of a process of identifying those photos so that I can filter them down later. I'm going to sort these photos in the order that they were actually captured, and then I'll go to the first image in the sequence. All of these images have already been copied from my card onto my hard drive. Lightroom is now, as you can see up at the top left, building previews for all of these images. So now I'm ready to go through the photos and identify my favorites. And there's a variety of different ways that I could do this inside of Lightroom. We have pick flags so that I can choose which images are picked versus rejected. I have color labels, so if I have some sort of color code that I want to use, I can assign a red color label or a yellow color label. But for me personally, I like to use star ratings for this purpose. And I actually use star ratings in a way that's not the normal approach, you might say. Instead of saying that 1 star equals a bad image, to me 1 star is an image that I might use, because what's the point of identifying an image as a bad image? To me, I'm not going to use an image if it's a bad image, so why assign a star rating to it? So instead, I use an approach where a star rating means it's a photo that I like, that I think that I might actually use for some purpose. And with star ratings, if I'm using 1 star for my sort of entry-level good photo that I think I might use, all the way up to a 5-star rating, that means this is one of my favorite photos, one of what I think are the best photos that I've ever captured. Now I have a pretty good range in between so that I can identify my secondary photos that maybe I would use just as supplements to the real best photos from a given photo shoot, all the way up to the best of the best. I also like to take a multiple pass approach to identifying my favorite images. And this is really in large part just to separate out the emotion from the process. So for example, here's an image that was captured in Rome, Italy, in Campo dei Fiori. For those who don't speak Italian, that means essentially field of flowers. And I had the very clever idea, or what I thought was a clever idea at the time, to photograph the sign indicating Campo dei Fiori with flowers in the foreground. What a wonderful cliche that was. And when I took the picture, I thought I might actually be proud of the picture. So in that moment, I was probably thinking 5 stars. Then later I realized it's not that interesting a photo. I mean, fine, it's sunflowers and it's in Italy, but I think I have better images. And so by taking a little bit more sort of spread out approach to identifying my favorites, I'm then able to separate out the emotion a little bit. And so the first time I run through my images, I'm only going to use a 1-star rating to indicate an image that I like, and no stars for an image that I think, I'm probably not going to use that. And then later I'll go back through and review the 1-star images, possibly upgrade some of those to a 2 or a 3-star rating if I really like the image. And then I save the 4 and 5-star ratings for later in my workflow. After I've had a chance to optimize the image a little bit, maybe post the image to Facebook and see how many likes I get, or whatever the case might be, a chance to live with the photo just a little bit before I decide that this really is one of my favorite images. So let's go through that process just real quickly. I might hide some of my panels here, for example, and I can press the number 1 for any image that I like to assign a 1-star rating. Who would have thought it could be so simple? Keyboard shortcuts that we can actually remember. So 1 for 1 star, 3 for 3 star, 5 for 5 star, or if you want to remove the star rating altogether, you can just press the number 0 for 0 stars. I can compare these photos. I think I like this one actually a little bit better, so we'll go back and give that one 0, leave that one at 1, and that looks pretty interesting. So a photo that I like, I can assign a 1-star rating to it by pressing the number 1 on the keyboard. Photos that I'm maybe not so crazy about, I can just skip over by pressing the right arrow on the keyboard. So I can go through all of those images and identify which ones I think are my favorites from the trip or whatever the case might be. And then, of course, I've automatically essentially filtered my images to some of my favorites. So I'm narrowing that field down to a more manageable number of images. And again, as I go through and review those images, maybe after a couple of days, maybe wait till next week, upgrade some of my real favorite photos, then it's going to be even easier to find my real favorite images. Now, of course, as I'm reviewing these photos, you might realize I don't always have my laptop with me. You'll recall that we, of course, have Lightroom on the web, in our web browser so that I can go to the web for synchronized photos. Well, let's take a look at how we can actually synchronize our images so that they're available across any device. So I can use Lightroom on my computer using the desktop application. I can use any computer with an internet connection and access Lightroom, my synchronized photos, via the web browser, or I can use my mobile device, my iPad, my iPhone, my Android device, in order to view those photos and in fact assign ratings to them. So I'm just going to go ahead, and in this case I've got that folder that contains the Rome 2015 images that we've been working with here. Down below the folders, you can see that I have collections. Collections are a secondary tool, you might say, for organizing our photos. I think of collections as essentially being like a virtual folder. I can add an image to a collection, but I'm not making an additional copy of my image. I still have one copy of my photo on the hard drive. Lightroom is just giving me additional tools to organize those images. And so, for example, here I have some images from Maine that are part of a collection, but I want to create a collection based on the Rome photos. Perhaps I'm about to board a flight and I want to be able to review my images on my iPad while we're traveling. So I'm going to create a collection that includes all of these images. I could certainly filter the images, only include the star-rated photos in the collection or what have you. But in this case, I'm simply going to create a collection that includes all of the photos from this folder. And so instead of creating a collection and then dragging and dropping photos into that collection from a given folder or from multiple folders, I'm simply going to drag the folder from the folders section of the left panel here in the library module down to the collections section. And when I do that, you can see that a Rome 2015 collection is created. And if I click on it, essentially nothing happens at all because these are exactly the same photos that I was just looking at. They're not copies, they're just references to the original images. Well, if you take a closer look under collections, you'll see that a couple of these collections have a little icon, sort of looks like a sideways lightning bolt icon. That indicates that those collections are being synchronized with Lightroom Mobile via the Creative Cloud. The Rome 2015 collection that I just created has a checkbox there, but if I click in that checkbox, I'm enabling synchronization for that collection. So now you can see up at the top left, I am synchronizing 33 photos via the Creative Cloud. So Lightroom is going to create additional versions of these images, a scaled down version of the image, upload it to the Adobe server, so now those photos will be available from absolutely anywhere. So once that process gets started, I can then switch to Lightroom on my mobile device, for example. I'll go ahead and set this up. And we'll take a look at the iPad here in this case, and you can see that I have several collections. Notice the collections that were already configured for synchronization are already on my iPad. And as we're sitting here watching, you can see that the Rome 2015 collection has now appeared on the iPad, and we're up to 3 images. So it's synchronizing via my internet connection here. Photos are going from my laptop to Adobe's Creative Cloud servers and then making themselves available on my iPad as well. And I can go through and review those images on the iPad. I can organize the photos on the iPad. I can optimize the photos to some extent. And of course, I can share the photos on the iPad or any other mobile device. Again, same basic thing on the web browser, on the desktop. I'm able to synchronize those photos, access the photos from just about anywhere, and perform some of my key tasks from virtually any device. So for example, let's say this image, after further review, I've decided I really like this photo. And so I want to upgrade it. So I'll just simply click or tap and drag across the photo, vertically in this case, and I can drag upward to increase the star rating or downward to decrease the star rating. Let's go ahead and take that one up to 3 stars. That feels good, doesn't it? Self-esteem is getting boosted even as we speak. I could also apply some adjustments to this image. I'll go ahead and tap the adjust item here, for example. Over on the left, you'll see that we have not only basic adjustments, I can apply a tone curve, I can apply vignetting adjustments, the color versus black and white adjustments, and the amazing dehaze adjustment that makes a hazy scene just look like the winds blew all that haze out of view. But I also have a series of other adjustments available. I can pan across, just scroll through the various adjustments here. Maybe I want to darken down those shadows just a little bit, and maybe I'll come into the highlights and perhaps brighten things up just a little bit there, essentially enhancing contrast. Let's go take a look, see what other photos we've got synchronized here, and we'll find a nice color image. Well, as long as we're going to make fun of the picture from Campo de Fiore, why don't we go ahead and take a closer look at it. And maybe I'll apply a preset. In this case, I'll tap the presets item, And maybe I'm going to use a black and white preset, so I can use presets that are included in Lightroom on the iPad. So any adjustment that I'm applying, by the way, completely non-destructive. We already knew that, didn't we? Lightroom is working completely non-destructively, not harming any of the pixels in my original photo. And the same holds true, of course, on the iPad, in the web browser, or wherever I might be working. I'm going to choose that black and white option, and let's go ahead and use, maybe contrast 50. That looks mildly interesting. I can apply the changes to that image. And as we'll see in a moment, Lightroom Mobile, in this case, on my mobile device, is going to process that information. Of course, it's not going to stay on my mobile device. As soon as I'm connected to the internet, that information will synchronize once again and magically appear everywhere else that I'm accessing my photos via Lightroom. So we'll go ahead and switch back to Lightroom on the desktop. And we can see the full color version of the photo still, but that will change momentarily. We're going to see magic right before our eyes as soon as my internet connection catches up with me, and we'll see that we have converted that image successfully then into a black and white interpretation. But I also want to show you how we can share our photos. And again, much of this sharing can happen from virtually anywhere. I can play a slideshow on my mobile device using Lightroom Mobile. I can present those images in my web browser using Lightroom on the web, or I can share images from directly inside of Lightroom on the desktop. Let's go ahead and take this photo, for example. We'll go ahead and switch into the Develop module, and I'll apply just a little bit of an adjustment. I think I want to enhance the detail a little bit with clarity, maybe darken down those shadows, essentially just trying to make the photo look its best, or look a little bit more like what I thought I was seeing when I took the picture in the first place. And so I'll go ahead and make those basic adjustments in this case, nothing too significant for this photo. And then I can share this image, in this case directly inside of Lightroom on the desktop. Now there's a variety of ways that I could share the image. I could go into the book module and I can design my own book in its entirety with all sorts of page layout options. Essentially, the book module represents the blurb printing service inside of Lightroom. So I can go through and create a layout for all of my photos, customize that layout as much as I'd like, and then purchase the book directly through Blurb. And all those photos and layouts will be processed in Lightroom, uploaded to their servers. I can, of course, present a slideshow from inside Lightroom. I can print my images inside of Lightroom, and I can create web galleries that I can upload to my own website, for example. But social media being what it is today, let's go ahead and publish a photo directly to Facebook from inside of Lightroom. I've already gone ahead and configured Lightroom to have access, to have permission to my Facebook account. And so I can simply drag a photo. We'll go ahead and drag this picture of stairs in Rome and drop it into the publish service that I've already configured inside of Lightroom for Facebook. I'll switch to these images, and you can see that I have the photo here ready to be published. I'll go ahead and click the publish button, and then Lightroom will process that photo. So I'm actually able to have this image be processed. This was an original raw capture taken with the big, heavy digital SLR. And I downloaded that photo onto my computer, processed that photo on my iPad and possibly in the web browser and Lightroom on my desktop. And now I'm actually able to publish that photo directly to Facebook from inside of Lightroom. But it actually gets even better than that. Let's go ahead and navigate to Facebook here. And we'll go into my photos. Oops, go to albums here. And I have, oops, that's Rome favorites. I have an album here specifically created for sharing photos from Lightroom. We'll go ahead and approve that image so that everyone can see it. So you who have your mobile devices with you right now, you can go to Facebook and like the photo immediately. Immediately. I'm still waiting. Anyone? Please. You're not going to like the, fine. I'll like my own photo. I'm not ashamed. Well, I especially like when it says, you like this. It's reminding me that I like my photo. And as long as I like it, that's good enough for me. Let's type a little comment here. Hello from PIX2015, even including the hashtag, which proves I know how to use Facebook. And I'll add that comment. Well, that's all well and good, but come on now, this is just Facebook in a web browser. We're all accustomed to that, right? Well, let's get back over into Lightroom and remember that inside of Lightroom, we have that photo that we shared to Facebook. And if we look down at the bottom of the right panel in the library module, you will see that we have a comments section. Sadly, it says the like count is 0. But I know it's a lie because I know that I like my own picture. So we know that at least it's up to 1 like for this image. And I'm desperately hoping that all of you have since gone to like that picture on Facebook. So we'll be up to like 70,000 likes by now. Let's find out. I'm going to click the refresh button right inside of Lightroom. Oh my goodness, we're up to 4 likes. 3 other people liked the image already. That's a new record for me. And hello from PIX2015. So I can actually see, I can interact with Facebook, if you will, from right inside of Lightroom. I'm even going to add another comment. What fun this is with an amazing audience. That's, so I got to spell audience correctly. That's you guys. And I'll go ahead and add that comment, and that will be posted automatically. So once I get back over into Facebook, we'll see, oh, the like count is up to 6, the comments are up to 2, and only 1 of the likes was mine. And now we'll go ahead and refresh the page here, and you'll see that both of the comments will be included for that image, the comment that I posted through my web browser, but also inside of Lightroom. And so, as you can see, I'm able to use all of these various tools to work with my photos from virtually anywhere, on my computer, in a web browser, on a mobile device, and Lightroom is synchronizing all of my actions across all of these various platforms via the Creative Cloud so that I can literally organize, optimize, and share my photos from virtually anywhere. Thank you guys very, very much. I hope you go like that picture on Facebook, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.